Madame
President, Secretary General, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, as I did several years ago, I am delighted to take the floor from this podium, first of all to pay tribute to a worthy son of the African continent, Mr. Kofi Annan, who passed away just a few weeks ago after having made his mark on our organization with his exemplary commitment to peace. I should also like to commend the unquestionable leadership of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, in his defense of a multilateralism which is strongly influenced by a reformed United Nations. I should also like to proffer my very warmest congratulations to you, Madam President, for your brilliant election in a clear acknowledgement of your experience as a diplomat. President, during my statement at the 72nd session of our August Assembly, I spoke about the domestic situation in my country, and I affirmed that in security terms, thanks to the efforts we had made, we had succeeded in reversing the dangerous trend in the center of the country and to significantly improving the situation there, whilst in the northeast, the very worthy efforts provided by the defense and security forces were allowing us to contain terrorist attacks. Today, peace has been consolidated in the center of the country, as attested to by the significant reintegration and return of families which had been forced to displace within our country or to go to neighboring countries as a result of the deplorable violence. However, the security challenge remains great in the northeast region due to the persistent terrorist activity, which has hit not only the Beni region on the 23rd of September this year, but also other countries in the region. In any case, these attacks are another challenge for all those who hold dear the defense of a free world, with no blind violence. These will not prevent us from pursuing our action for peace and stability in our country, and above all, from undertaking further efforts in order to secure the electoral process currently underway. Madam President, on the political front, whilst applauding the efforts made by the whole of the political class, attested to by a global consensus on the electoral process, whose ultimate aim was to organize the elections, I did mention the progress made, notably also, in drawing up the electoral roll and the imminent publication of the electoral calendar. Despite the enormous challenges still lying across our path in many areas, just like last year, I now reaffirm the irreversible nature of our decision to hold the elections as planned at the end of this year. The political situation in my country is thus becoming increasingly predictable and transparent, with all of the deadlines provided for in the electoral calendar for the upcoming elections having been met to date. Everything will be done in order to ensure that these elections are peaceful and credible. This is a guarantee of the consolidation of political and economic stability, which the Democratic Republic of the Congo so sorely needs for its emergence. President, making the United Nations relevant to all people, global leadership and shared responsibilities for peaceful, equitable and sustainable societies. This is the theme of this general debate. This suggests an uncompromising gaze and light shone upon our organization and invites each member state to assess its contribution to the benefit of a universal whole and to protecting those values which make the United Nations a bastion of solidarity, peace, and shared progress in the face of significant changes which have occurred on the international stage. These are characterized by the emergence of new hubs of development and the appearance of new threats, some of which have global repercussions. This justifies once again the committed and shared reflection around the reform of our organization in order to ensure better functioning of this organization. However, the effectiveness of our organization in this new context also depends upon its ability to preserve the ideals which form the foundation of the global balance which resulted from San Francisco. President, we cannot make the United Nations into an organization for all if the characteristic interference of some governments in affairs which are, without a doubt, a result of internal state policies and are in violation of the rules underpinning this organization, if such interference is dangerously tolerated and even trivialized. This is what lies behind the position of my country to denounce and oppose any interference in the electoral process underway and to finance all of its operational costs. My country also calls for a return to the basics, to the fundamentals of democracy and human rights, which is one of the subjects, the topics underlying variable geometry diplomacy. These are used abusively by some to weaken countries which have decided to turn resolutely in the direction of progress. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, while it is only 58 years old, 15 of them as a democracy, is proud to share its experience in this area, both within the Human Rights Council, which it is a member of, and in other regional and international fora. We do this humbly, but without complexes. We are aware that we still have a long way to go. We cannot make the United Nations into an organization for all and for the benefit of sustainable societies if the fauna and flora of those countries containing huge forests serve merely as ornaments, with the carefully chosen pretext of their being the lungs of humankind, or even of their being there to counterbalance the environmental damage caused by the industries of the North. This cannot happen if, at the same time, there is no real will to provide our people with anything in return, or in order to honor promises which are often made but never kept. President, almost 15 years ago, the African continent spoke with one voice to call for its entry into the Security Council of the United Nations as a permanent member as a result of a reform of our organization. Given the multifaceted changes noted for several years now, in the name of the equity which is so strongly emphasized during this session, Africa wishes to have its voice better heard in response to the expectations of its people, who are calling for greater representation within this organization whose scope is universal, and most of whose peacekeeping action concerns our continent. Thus, 20 years after the deployment of United Nations forces in my country, and because of their very mitigated results in operational terms, my government reiterates its demand for the effective and substantial beginning of the withdrawal of this multilateral force. To conclude, Madam President, I can measure the progress made today by my country, which just a few years ago was relegated to the rank of a failed state, but which today harbors unquestionable aspirations for emergence. This is the case because the economic, security, and political signals are so encouraging. The challenges ahead of us are certainly not minor ones, but they cannot shake my faith in a bright future for my country, whose people are able to avoid the traps of history and to strongly affirm their attachment to their country's unity, independence, and sovereignty. I would also like to assure you that the Democratic Republic of Congo will always stand by this organization, just as long as it stands by us. Because it embodies the most tangible result and conclusion of all our efforts towards peace and the well-being of our planet. It is, however, incumbent upon member states to work towards a stronger organization, using their actions to preserve those values which underpinned its birth and whose scope unquestionably encompasses the preservation of humanity. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.